Welcome everyone to our webinar, Read Speaker for Schoology, using text-to-speech for accessibility and engagement. My name is Kathy Wood. I am the Education Partner Manager here at Read Speaker, and alongside me today is Ginger Dewey, our Education Development Manager. And today we're just really going to talk about our solution, our text-to-speech solution, and how it works with Schoology. First, I really want to bring this to your attention. This article was in Chalkbeat, and it talks about how our students, especially our younger students, really were at a disadvantage when COVID happened and we had to transition to different methods of teaching, whether it be moving from a brick and mortar to a virtual or a hybrid setting. And as you can see, the percentage points were 3 to 6 percentile points behind in reading and 8 in math, again with the younger students faring worse. And again, when we think about our students, as educators, you know that not all of your students learn in the same way. So again, why are we pointing these things out when it's kind of like, yeah, we kind of know that? Well, when we think about how we are addressing student needs, take a look at this cartoon. The gentleman is saying for a fair selection, everyone has to take the same exam, so please climb that tree. Well, we kind of know a seal and a fish and the elephant and the penguin, they can't climb that tree. So how is that fair to give every student the same exam and expect them to take it in the same way? And another cartoon. Again, gentleman is shoveling the snow and the gentleman in the wheelchair saying, if you would just shovel the ramp, we could all get in the building. And this really ties into the universal design for learning. And I know we're throwing a lot of information out at you, but when you think about this, universal design for learning is based on scientific insights. It's about creating equal opportunities, works for everyone, but it can be customized and adjusted for that individual need. So when we think about our students, all of them learning in a different way, providing a tool or tools that can help all your students that can be customized, that's really a very interesting concept. Ginger?
When I look at the pictures that we have up there, it's talking about the how, the what, and the why of learning. And if you'll notice, the entire brain is involved. Different parts of what you're doing pull from different areas. It's not all one area. That's just like all of our students aren't one learning concept. They're all different. When you look at the what, you're talking about recognition task, well, recognizing words. When you're looking at the how, you're looking at strategic task or problem solving. That would be more your math and maybe chemistry, physics, anything that's asking you to problem solve. And the why is asking you to expand upon that. Why are we learning? Why are we looking at different things? And when you put all that together, the whole brain is involved in that. And it takes all of that to work with UDL because audio is included in every one of those aspects.
And before we kind of jump into the Read Speaker solution, we always like to talk about Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln once stated how hearing something as well as seeing it helped him understand it better. Because again, it's that bimodal way of learning. And so Read Speaker is not only a text-to-speech company, but we also provide those accessibility tools, highlighting when it's reading the content. And again, we didn't want to make this too salesy about Read Speaker. We really just wanted to show you how it works with Schoology. But please understand, Read Speaker really promotes that UDL way of the universal design of learning. And we also create our own voices. And why is that important to mention before we deep dive into how it works with Schoology? Because students don't like that robotic sounding voices. We have our own linguistic team that creates our own voices. So ours are actually the most relatable. We have voices that now have the inflections and the conversational style. And so those are things to think about when we think about text to speech. It doesn't have to be those old robotic voices. They can be voices that the students can relate to, both female and male, British accent, Australian accent. So again, you can actually see or hear those voices on our website if you ever want to kind of play around with that. Ginger, I'm going to hand it off to you now.
Okay, and Kathy, I want to add one more thing to what you were saying about our linguistic team. If you find something that is not pronounced the way you want it to be pronounced, then we can customize that. My boss gives a example of a lake that was near him, and he said that they call it Charlotte. Well, everyone else, when they see the word, says Charlotte, just like the city Charlotte. But that's a regional pronunciation, so we could make that pronunciation happen to you. Let me speak to this image. On the image, you'll see several different things that are labeled. You have settings, so you customize it to you. That includes a reading speed, what voice you want to use. You also have the ability for writing assistance, which is not grammar. It's simply reading out the letters as you type them, and a way to OCR words on an image. Now, what that means is it takes a picture of it and it then converts those words into a voice to be read out loud. So if you have a picture of something, say a picture of a poster, and it has a good saying on it, the students could then listen to what those words are on the poster.
And Ginger, also when we talk about reading speed, and we'll touch a little bit more about this, if you have students that are English as a second language students, or students that are just having a hard time, digesting some information, the reading speed really is an important tool for those students because they can slow it down. Us Southerners, if you can't tell that both Ginger and I are Southerners, sometimes we speak a little bit slower. And so when we hear things that maybe are spoken very fast, the reading speed really helps anyone, when you think about needing to hear that information. If you're studying something like nursing, think about our higher ed students. If you're saying nursing, you need to really hear things quickly that maybe a doctor is shouting out at you. Well, you can increase the reading speed to train yourself to hear something quickly and digest it quickly. So again, these tools all have specific, real, relatable things that they can help with.
Okay, on the screen, you see two things. One is a test, a quiz, and you notice that you can read that quiz with the extension, the Read Speaker for Schoology extension. And then on the forefront, you see what I was talking about, OCRing, or taking a picture of the words and converting it to voice. That's being done. So notice that one is inside Schoology and the other one is in Google Docs. Okay, on the screen in front of you, you have a PDF. Up here at the top, we have a little speaker. And with the speaker, it is the Read Speaker for Schoology extension. And when I click it, it appears. And you're probably going to ask, well, how do I get that speaker up there? Simple. Your Google admin is going to install it. And then it will be there for you. You don't have to do anything. The Google admin's going to do everything.
Now, Ginger, we had a quick question come in. I think it would be a perfect time to answer this. Do all the students get it, or can you send it out to a small subset of students?
The Google admin can do a small set of students or all students. That's up to you and how you decide you want it delivered. And if it's a small subset, all you have to do is provide your Google admin who needs to be in that group, and they will set it up. Now, we have a picture here. It says read speaker, and pardon me for turning my head some, I'm sharing from a different screen. So we have a picture here, and I'm going to draw a box around the words. When I release it, notice it's thinking.
Read speaker pioneering voice technology.
And it read it out. Now, it had a blue word with a yellow sentence. If you don't like that, you could change it around to what you want it to be. If you're colorblind, you can even use an underline. So you make it fit you. This is an HTML lesson. So I turn on my extension, and now I'm going to highlight some information, just a little bit, and click listen.
Each person has different learning preferences.
Let's go on. This one is a discussion, and this right here is an image, so I still have to launch my extension. And when I launch it, I'm going to highlight the discussion and click listen on it. And when
This is a discussion about the Read Speaker for Schoology tools. Pick a tool and describe how you can use the tool. You must respond to 2 classmates with more than I agree. Your response must have substance.
It started playing quicker than I expected it to. And I was going to say, when we have a discussion, multiple people are posting, right? So we may want to use different voices. We might want to use American English for one person and maybe use an Australian English for another one, or a British English. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type just a couple of sentences in, and I'm going to read it with different voices. Okay, now let's listen to what we have up here. First, let's use the Australian English. So I click on it and say save. Highlight and click listen.
I like the listen button. It allows me to use my eyes and ears so I remember it better.
That's kind of cool sounding. Now, let's change that to the British English.
I like the listen button. It allows me to use my eyes and ears so I remember it better.
Now we heard 3 different voices. We heard the American English, the Australian English, and the British English. And you might be asking, well, do I have to buy those differently? No, all of these languages come with the player. So let's say in maybe a middle school or a high school class, you're taking French or you're taking Spanish and you want them to go out and read a newspaper. They could choose the French or the Spanish and go to one of those newspapers written in that language and listen to it, and it would be read with the correct voice. That's kind of cool.
Ginger, we had another question about the voices in terms of what does all of that come with the license, and do they get the male and female voice of each?
What comes with the license is a set package, and not all packages have male and female of each voice. So typically we have a male in one English voice and a female in a different English voice, but not in the same, like not both in American English or both in British. It would change around. Now, you maybe have heard about having male and female of the same voice, but that's in another tool that we have that does not integrate into Schoology. But we do have a full or premium Schoology package that does have that. And we'll talk more about that here in a little bit. Did that answer the question, Kathy?
It looks like it.
Okay, good to know. Let's look at an assignment. Now, when you're doing an assignment, you want to make certain you really understand those instructions. and make certain that you are checking off each thing that you need to do when you do your assignment. So we're going to launch our extension and move it out of the way. Those little 4 pointed arrows, let me drag it wherever I want it. And I'm going to read what it has me doing for this assignment.
Find an article on text-to-speech. Summarize the article. Provide the link to the article as well as the summary.
Okay, now I was reading it as it was being read to me. And what I heard is I've got to go out somewhere and find me an article on text-to-speech, and then I have to do a quick summary. Now, in this particular class, a summary means a paragraph. And I got to provide the link so they don't think I just made something up. When we talk about assessments, we talk about many different kinds, and that could be your discussions where you're seeing how well your students are interchanging and how well they have learned certain concepts and applying it. We see it in our assignments, which show us how much they can follow instructions and perform the various tasks that we ask them. But unfortunately, we can't get away from quizzes completely or tests completely. And with that, I have a quiz up here, and I'm going to launch my extension, and I'm going to read my quiz. We'll read my question.
The Read Speaker for Schoology extension can only read inside Schoology.
And I'm going to read my answers one at a time.
True. False.
And that answer is false. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute, but you can read things that are not inside Schoology. You can read websites and you can read your Google Docs. Let's look at our next question. And let's listen to our question.
Which tools are on the lower toolbar of Read Speaker for Schoology?
And our answers.
Reading language.
Well, that one's right there, so I'm going to check it.
Schoology logo.
We got that one.
Settings.
There's that one.
Listen.
Okay, listen's up there, but it did say lower toolbar, and it's not on the lower toolbar, so we don't check that one. And now our last question.
Write a short paragraph about which tools are most beneficial to you in Read Speaker for Schoology. Defend each tool by answering why for the tool choice.
Okay, we have to write a paragraph, and we have to decide which tools are most beneficial and say why. So I'm going to type up a paragraph, and I'm going to then click on review, and I think I'm good, so I'm going to click finish. Recorded. Kathy, do we have any questions?
Yes, we had one question about the reading the question and answers. Can it read the answers all together, or do you have to read them individually?
It is better to read them individually because quite frequently answers are very long, and because of that, you want that whole answer to sink in before you go to the next choice. But if you wanted to, you could listen to it all at one time. Any other questions, Kathy?
No.
Let's look at a Google Doc. Whoops. A Google Doc. Now up here, I have a map of the U.S. territories, and I have a couple of things written in on it. But the first thing I want to do is to read what this tiny print is right here in the middle. So since it's a picture, I have to use the tool that we call Snapshot. And remember, that's the one that takes the words on the picture and gives them a voice. Now it's thinking, and it's going to read it out to me.
Louisiana Purchase 1803, from France.
So it was the Louisiana Purchase, and 1803 from France. So that's interesting. And up here I have some commentary that I wrote. Well, I'm going to turn on, and we already have it turned on, my writing assistance. And I like things spelled out. So I'm going to type a little bit more.
ILIKETCOLORS.
And you could hear that it was spelling it out. Now, why might you want it spelled out? Because there are unintentional words like from and form. And hearing it spelled out, you could catch that. That was kind of cool. But now let's look at what we call the premium. And the premium, I have a book that I can share with a student by doing that from the library. Just like you borrow a book from the regular library, the student can borrow an accessible version of the book from you. I'll show you how that works in just a moment. I also have up here a PDF. And one thing I want you to notice as I swap between the EPUB and the PDF is which tools are available over here on the left. Right now on the PDF, I have annotations and I have a highlighter. But when I go back to just my EPUB, I don't have an annotation. Depending on what kind of document you put up, the tools you can use will show. Otherwise, they'll be grayed out. So let's just pick a chapter here. And we're going to use our highlighter. When a student is studying, they could use this highlighter for picking up things that were important, things they didn't understand, or if they had to write a paper, something they could use in the introduction, and then when they answer the question why that was important, and then when they conclude it. You can pick your color. Pick red and highlight some. And tell your students always highlight the whole sentence because otherwise it won't make sense to them later. But I don't want to have to keep coming up here to the highlighter bar. So I'm going to pick the arrow. And now I can highlight a sentence and pick my color. I can highlight another sentence down here and pick my color. And maybe this sentence right here and pick my color of, who have I not used? I haven't used blue. Okay, if I am colorblind, I got a problem. So I can put borders around it. Red is always a solid border. Yellow is always an underline. Blue has dashes and green's dotted. So whether or not they could see the color or not, they have a symbol that lets them collect it. And speaking of collecting, we can collect all this and we can do the whole document or only a page. Always do the whole document. You can sort it by color or position. That's your choice. And showing or not showing the color indicators, well, let's show them. We don't want all of them. We can uncheck some, but we want everything. And I always tell the students, take everything every time. And there was highlighting already in this book. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the title by taking off all that mess in front. And then I'm going to add the word notes at the end. I need a space in there. But just because I put a good title here, notice up at the top, it doesn't have a title. So what I need to do is to save it. And when I save it, I get that title I gave it, plus some other stuff that I don't want. And I can put this where I want it, and I'm going to put it in demo. And notice there are different dashes to the left of each one of my folder names. The more dashes, the deeper the folder. So I can put folders inside folders inside folders. Notice at the bottom, I'm now told that it saved it, and my untitled text says that it saved it. So that's very important. And notice down here, the last part, where I was doing the highlighting on this particular demo, it says the whole sentence. And that's very important, because if we go back up here to some of these other highlights, legal restrictions on the use of, well, what does that mean? I don't have the whole sentence. Or distributable. I don't have the whole sentence. So what does it mean? But down at the bottom, I have whole sentences, so I know what it means. We have tools that you can use called a page mask. And notice it has keyboard controls on it. And I can push it up or down, make it larger or smaller. And that's helping me focus on this. I have another one that's a reading ruler, which is the same thing as a note card. Again, I can make it larger or smaller. And if I click on this question, it tells me press the space bar to enable my keyboard mode. So notice it is there. One more thing that I want to show you in the library. We talked about sharing, and I'm going to go to this book because we said we could share a book. Just like you check one out from the library, you can check one out here. And what you do is the teacher goes over here in their library to where the accessible book is and says share the document. They can set up dates and times if they want to. The teacher can start typing a name. I have Donald Duck, so I'm going to share that with Donald Duck and say save settings. Donald will now have the book, but he won't be able to share it with anyone else because he doesn't have these controls over here on the side. The last thing I want to show you is about proof listening. And we can type something, and now let's listen to it.
This is demo form Ginger.
Well, I heard this is demo form Ginger. Let's spell check. No misspelling, so it must be right, correct? But my ear told me that I needed an A and that this should have been from and not form. So now let's listen again.
This is a demo from Ginger.
That sounds a little bit better because all the words are there. And so many times our students just spell check. They don't proofread. Well, proofreading means more than just reading the words. It's listening to those words. And you could do this out on a Google Doc also. Now, the last thing is we're going to look at dictation in this. And that's because some students simply cannot type. It might be because they never learned how. It might be a cognitive disability that prevents that processing. The way this works is we click start and we say a sentence. We say the punctuation we want with the sentence. There are 2 foxes playing outside my window, period. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see it better. I click, and I'm going to do another one. They are running around, comma, jumping, comma, and acting like fools, exclamation point. And one more time. Why are they doing this? Question mark. Now notice the commas are there, and the period, the exclamation point, the question mark, but I didn't get capital letters at the beginning, so I have to fix that. Now I've fixed it, and I'm going to click insert text. And we notice that my sentences are now up here and it's in a paragraph form. That's why I wanted to correct those capital letters at the very beginning. Kathy, I'm going to turn this back over to you unless there's some questions that I need to show something.
There was just a quick question about the highlighting and where it's saved. Was that saving on the student's device, or was that saving on the teacher's device?
Kathy, that's a good question. Highlights are stored in the browser's cookies and cache. Now that means it's on the individual device. So that means that it would be on the student's device. And that's why when we say we need to collect our highlights, we need to do that, because sometimes we do have to clear out our cookies and cache, and we would lose them, or we go to a different computer, or we go to our phone or something like that, and we wouldn't be seeing them.
And that's also another good point to bring up, is that a student can actually have different settings on each one of their devices. So if they are getting, setting on their Chromebook for a little bit, but then move over to their iPhone, they can have different settings on each device.
Very true. In fact, I like a little bit larger font when I'm on my phone than when I'm on a Chromebook or a laptop or an iPad or whatever. I just like a little bit larger font on that phone because it's just too small for my eyes.
All right, I don't see any other questions, so let me just bring back up the PowerPoint. And again, we just really want to tell you a little bit again, or point out some of the features that Ginger showed in the demo. The reading speed, great for language learners, enlarged text, text mode, all of these help a student. And it's not just students that are identified with IEPs or 504 plans. These can actually help all students. When you think about screen fatigue, these students that have had to switch from a brick and mortar to a hybrid or virtual setting, there's a lot of screen fatigue in it. Simply changing the voice, as Ginger showed, can help break up that monotony. And again, we're here to answer any questions. Here's our contact information. I highly encourage you to visit our website, readspeaker.com/education. You can also follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. We're always hosting free webinars. We also offer office hours, but more importantly, we offer free demos, free sandbox environments, so that you can actually play around with our tools in your environment. We think this is the best way for you to see our tools in action with your content and see if it's a right fit for you. Ginger, do you have anything else you'd like to say?
Yes, I do. One thing that we offer that a lot of companies don't offer is free support during the life of your contract. And that means that if you have technical support, we support you. But if you need training or you need a professional development day, anything like that, I'm here to help you. That's what I do for ReadSpeaker, and it doesn't cost anything. So that's an important aspect to keep, because so many companies now are charging for that service, but we do not.
That's right. And when we think about the licenses, you can have that customized. It can be a site-wide license, or it can be just for a subset of students. So those are things that you would talk to Paul Stisser about, and his contact information is there as well. But we really do want to just say how much we appreciate you joining us for this webinar, and we hope that you gain some information that you can go back and take to your school. And we hope to hear from you soon. So again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good day.